Welcome back and thanks for tuning in. This is where we left off in part 1. This is going to be my table saw hold down, and I'm building this primarily as a nice secure and firm hold down for all the slats I need to cut for the butcher block countertop. And I'm also making this generic enough that I can obviously use it for other projects because, well, there's an awful lot of work going into this and I would like it to be, useful going on forward. So this is going to start off nice and easy. I am going to make the L, which is going to be the part that's going to hold down, obviously, the work. Simple matter of just clamping that firmly in place and then countersinking a couple of holes and putting the screws in. I'm countersinking them because this part here is going to attach to the inverted U that's going to go on the back rail, and just need them out of the way. Also, what I want to do in this is I'm going to cut a piece of acrylic that's going to fit on the top of this, and it's going to do a couple of things. First off, it is going to prevent any chips from flying up into my face and sawdust and all that sort of stuff. But also, I may need to put a little bit extra pressure at the far end with my hand, and it's going to keep my fingers out of the way, which is just an added safety feature. So as in part 1, what I said, I need to trim this down to size now, and it's just a simple matter of setting the saw blade height, and then eyeballing so it's relatively close, clamping everything down firmly, running the saw across, and then gradually creeping up on it to get it nice and flush. And this is just for aesthetics. It's not really important. I could have just actually left that on. I think it'll be much nicer in my grip when I'm holding this, and well, I am going to be using this a fair amount, so it would be nice that it is comfortable. So that's that, and it turned out really quite nice. It was nice and smooth. It's very easy when you do that sort of creep up to something, and it makes things really nice. And I don't have to do any sanding on that, which is another benefit, really. Next up, I'm going to cut the acrylic for the hold down section. And I'm going to make this out of 1/4 inch clear acrylic. I probably could have got away with 1/8, but I'm going all in here on safety. If anything flies around inside this, the 1/4 inch will definitely stop it. And I also have a fair amount of it in the shop at the moment. I do work an awful lot with acrylic, so... And the nice thing about it is they just happen to be 16 inches, which is kind of nice. So I only have to trim off the 7 inches that I need, and there's no waste at all. It's actually worked out really well that way. So what I need to do for this to attach it is I need to drill holes in this and then, of course, screw them in place. With acrylic, though, there can't be any pressure on the acrylic from the screws, so the holes have to be bigger than the diameter of the screws. And also, you can't put in a bevel top. They have to be the flat screws. Nice thing about this being clear is I only have to measure where I want them to go as far as the length are concerned, because 3/4 inch plywood, as you can see here, has one of the pieces is right in the middle. It has 2 on either side. It's made out of 5 pieces, and I just have to mark in the middle. And it's, like I said, very straightforward. So I'm going to put this on the mill I have, and I am going to, like I said, drill those holes. It's very easy. All I'm going to do is put on a piece of scrap wood, which is going to be, well, in this case, it's going to be 3/4 inch. I'm going to mount it in the vise, make sure it's good and solid, and then it's just a simple matter of drilling through the holes, being careful. I drill an awful lot of acrylic, so it's not really that big a deal. All I'm doing here right now, of course, is just finding a bit that's just slightly bigger than I need. I want to obviously leave enough around the rim that the screw head doesn't put undue pressure on the acrylic. The only real danger, of course, in doing this is tightening it down too much and, of course, cracking it. So there you go. See, it fits in nicely. There's not really that much wiggle at all. All I do is take that little dot I put on it and roughly center it over where the drill bit's going to be. I'll use a pair of vice grips just to hold it gently in place. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot of force because I'm just drilling straight down. And then I use the adjustable table on the mill to position it where I want it and just drill a hole. And I'm not going to show you one of them. It's a simple matter, of course, doing all of them and then putting it on the piece of wood and gently screwing them in place. That is probably the trickiest part of this. I mean, I drill an awful lot of acrylic, as I said, but when you are screwing it into place instead of welding it, you need to be gentle with it. So there's 2 ways you can do it. You can use like any sort of driver for this, but don't finish it off using the driver, because a lot of them have like a hammer feature to it, and it could end up cracking the acrylic. So the best way of doing it is either by hand, or start the screw by using one of these sorts of things, and then finishing off by hand. So I'm going to drill the hole, and then I'm not going to take any chances, because this fits really nicely and it looks good, and I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to end up cracking it and having to cut a new piece. So I'm just going to do it by hand. It's not a big deal, and that way I can finish it off with just the right amount of force, not having too much on it, and again, of course, like I said, cracking it. So that is all in place now. So what I'm going to do, and what I forgot to do, is I'm going to take a bunch of offcuts that I have, and I'm going to put some glue between the two pieces. That's the part I forgot to film, and I'm, as you saw, gently tapping that down, and this is just a jury rig clamp. I don't have any clamps for this, so I thought the easiest way of just putting it where it needs to be, making sure that it is good and secure, and of course square, and then letting the glue dry overnight, so when I go to screw this in place, it's already firmly attached, so I don't have to worry about trying to fiddle exactly where it is. I know it's square, I know it is exactly how I want it lined up, and then I just have to add the screws. So there you go, it's nice and square. Very happy about that. Probably not crucial, but because this is 16 inches, any bit of deflection could be a problem. So keeping it square means I don't have to worry about variations in the thickness from one end to the other. So it'll be nice. Everything will work out perfectly fine that way. And as you can see, it lifts up really well. I'm very happy with that, and it's very solid. It's got a lot of weight to it all by itself, which is nice, which means I don't have to put too much pressure on it. And this is a simple matter of putting it in place like so, and holding it down and letting it do its job. So I should sand off the edges of the acrylic and do some finishing on this, and I probably will at some point. So this is where it is glued together, and as you can see, these are probably the best screws for this. I wanted to use, they're 1.5 inches, so it'll go through all the wood. As you can see, they're a little bit long. So what I'm going to do, of course, is just sand down the tips so that they're shorter now, and then I'll drill a slightly larger pilot hole, and that way it will go in quite easily, even though it is more blunt now. And that avoids this, which is nice. That is one of the problems about screw selection with these sorts of things. I mean, they don't have enough of a variety. I mean, they don't allow for this sort of thing, so it's just sometimes you need to adjust them. No big deal. So I'm going to mark out the 4 holes, and then I'm going to drill the holes and make sure, of course, that the drill will fit. The corner one obviously is the trickiest one. And it's simple drilling these down all the way through and making sure there isn't any blowout on the back end just by running my hand down there. Sometimes when you're using these thinner bits, the jaws of the chuck don't quite grab it thoroughly enough, but it's fine. Just back it off a bit, put it right over it, tighten it down, and then you can pull up a bit. I thought I'd leave this in here because this does happen periodically. It's not a big deal, and of course you can get the drill bit out, no problem. And if you remember from earlier, I mentioned the issue with void spaces in this plywood that you seem to get these days. I made a mistake. Normally what I do is this. I would start the screw with the driver and then finish it off by hand, guaranteeing that what happened with the one on the right does not happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back off that screw, and then I have to make sure that the little bit of blowout that happened on the inside is cleaned up. Added some more work to me, but in the end it's not really that big a deal, I suppose, even though, like I said, it's one of those things that is kind of annoying. So what I'm going to do now is obviously do a test. So I found a little cheap piece of offcut here, made it as thin as possible. This is just 1/4 inch, and I'm going to shave off a really thin little bit of it because I want to see, this has to be square. I mean, I want to make sure when I make the slats for the butcher block countertop, that everything's nice and square. And of course the easiest way of doing that is to shave off a really thin piece, because if I end up with a nice full length piece out of this, I know it's nice and square. So I'm going to do that, wiggle around this a little bit, make sure everything's nice and tight, and then cut a piece off. Very easy, very straightforward. There's a couple of little things I'm going to show you later on when I'm actually using this. I made a couple of adjustments afterwards, but for all intents and purposes at the moment, I'm very happy with this. It cuts very nicely. You're going to see it shoot out the back here in a second, and it's full length, and as you can see, nice and thin from one end to the other. So definitely leave me comments. Let me know what you think of this, and I will definitely be using this an awful lot. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.